am all about probiotics, but I find that this industry can be quite a ripoff. Hi everybody, my name is Selena from Wholeness Campaign. I make videos on gut health, detoxification, and non-toxic living for those of you who are trying to heal from chronic illness naturally, especially with a gut first approach. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I got a comment on one of my videos that spurred on this topic. It was somebody asking, do you have a probiotic recommendation for GAPS? I'm struggling to find one. Keep up the amazing videos. Thank you so much. I do have an answer for you. In this video, I'm going to compare and contrast probiotic brands with homemade fermented foods that are probiotic rich, and I'm going to answer some common questions about probiotics, like what about stomach acid, and this whole idea of spore-based probiotics versus natural food-based probiotics. And in the end, I'm going to share exactly what you're going to want to look out for in your body when you're taking probiotics to know if you're taking the right one. Okay, to start out with, I answered this person's question by just saying that GAPS has a variety of recommended probiotic supplements that you could take. There's not really one right one. I gave her a couple brands, which I will have linked in the description box below. But ultimately, my answer to this question is that probiotic foods do way more than any probiotic supplement could ever do for you. And if you actually are learning how to make your own fermented foods at home, that's actually going to be better and more cost effective, because if you actually sit down and compare the amount of probiotic strains in, say, a conventional probiotic you could buy at the store to what you could make at home, the difference is so dramatic that it's really obvious that people are just really trying to make a lot of money on probiotics, and there's some much cheaper alternatives. So just to give you guys some numbers here, I found that on average, and this is just on average, typical conventional probiotics at the store contain a range of 1 to 10 different strains of beneficial microbes. So that's on average. Some of the ones that I have here actually contain 38 probiotic strands, and this one actually has 12. When you're looking to buy probiotics, you're looking at two things. You're looking at the number of different strains of probiotics, so different varieties of bacteria, and then you're also going to look at the number of each of those strains. So like it'll say something like trillions or billions or whatever. These are obviously just averages. That number is actually not as important as the diversity of strains, and I'm going to kind of get into that in a little bit. But generally speaking, probiotics you can make at home have upwards of 70 plus different strains of beneficial microbes. So that means that you're going to be exposed to a much broader spectrum of probiotics if you make them at home. Especially something like kefir has been known to have over 70 different types of probiotic strains. And so something like that would be obviously way better to give your baby than the conventional baby ones on the market, which I found have literally one strain of beneficial microbe. That's not ideal. So things like raw yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut brine, beet kvass, any type of fermented food that has a little bit of soil on it and can be fermented at home is going to have so many more beneficial microbes than, say, something that you just buy at the store, and those can be actually pretty expensive. And none of them really quite compare to the numbers you're seeing in kefir or yogurt. So when do you actually need a probiotic supplement? Because supplements can be helpful at certain times, and I'm not here saying that you never will need a probiotic pill from a store. That's not what I'm here to say. When would you actually need something like that, as opposed to being able to use the food-based forms that I've just mentioned? One example could be is if you are dairy intolerant. A lot of probiotics that I mentioned have, not all of them, but a lot of them are dairy-based. And so if you are looking to resolve dairy sensitivity, it's actually a gut issue. If you introduce beneficial microbes through maybe a supplement, you could actually train your gut bacteria to be able to tolerate dairy in its original raw form. And so something like that could be temporarily beneficial. Another time might be if you're coming off of having a round of antibiotics, you're going to want to boost your body with as much probiotics as possible. And again, I think this can be done totally through food, but it doesn't hurt to be taking ample amounts of probiotic, making sure that you're really getting that in on a daily basis. Another time could be if you're traveling and you don't have access to raw dairy or your fermented foods at home, bringing a probiotic supplement is a great way to support your gut health while you're away. Or lastly, if you have a very sensitive or damaged gut microbiome and you have a specific issue you're trying to resolve, sometimes these probiotic foods can be actually too powerful to start out with. And so you end up needing to start with a pill, not because it's better, but actually because it's a great stepping stone to getting you somewhere or it has a specific strand that you know is going to be in there because you can't test your own homemade ferments. It's a great way to kind of build your body's tolerance, build your gut microbiome starting from a small space. So again, for those purposes, I'm going to have some brands linked in the description box below so that you can explore and see some of them. Some probiotics claim to be for different issues, and basically it doesn't quite matter, but having some kind of probiotic in your diet is going to be good, especially if you're not taking one now. So go ahead and check out those brands in the description. Okay, but I want to talk about alternatives to probiotics. And like I said, the number of, when they say 50 billion, trillion, blah, 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 on the labels actually don't matter as much. And when you compare them to the food-based alternatives, it's almost pathetic because it's a fraction. You're getting a fraction of the amount, even though they're advertising that it's this large amount. What you're going to be able to get in food is going to be ample times that amount. Like I said, some great alternatives are going to be raw milk kefir. I will have my video on how to make kefir linked in the description box below if you're interested in learning how to make it. But making your own homemade raw kefir from raw milk is going to be the best of the best probiotic supplement you could take. And in addition to that, fermented brines are also going to be really important. I did a whole video on this. I explained the different types of fermented brine, how to make them, and what they can really do to your health. Having drops of fermented brine or even cups of fermented brine in your day-to-day diet is like consuming the powerhouse of probiotics. And again, you can make this from kitchen scraps. If you slice a cucumber and you take the skin off, put that in a jar with salt water, and you're making pickle brine. If you start it with something like whey or kefir or sauerkraut brine, you're going to actually have even more beneficial microbes to work with. Okay, so I want to kind of touch on some common questions here. People ask all the time, what about stomach acid? And there are actually probiotics coming out on the market now that have a layer around them. So like they're in a capsule that's in a capsule, so that when it hits your stomach acid, the acid is there to essentially kill microbes, that it kind of like wears away at the outer lining, but then it lets the capsule like open up completely after it's already gotten through your stomach. So it'll move into your small intestines. And then the idea behind these is that then you would have more of the actual probiotic making it through the stomach acid. I think this is kind of a perk of technology. Probably we need it at this day and age. Our digestive systems have been so damaged by so much of our modern world. But just to be clear, we actually had higher levels of stomach acid years ago, and although we were exposed to less amount of toxins and chemicals and things that were away at our gut bacteria, stomach acid was actually higher. And so theoretically, humans have been able to survive on taking in probiotic foods that got killed in the stomach acid for years and years, and they had thriving health. So I don't tend to worry as much about stomach acid. I don't think that these brands that are advertising these capsule in a capsule are bad. Some people believe that they really help them. But again, I do personally tend to steer towards the food-based forms of probiotics. And actually in studies, it was found that dead probiotics, so like even if it was heated and killed, literally these dead beneficial strains of bacteria, actually had a positive effect on autoimmunity, asthma, and food intolerance, which is so interesting. Even things like eczema. So I personally don't believe it's killing all of them. And I do think that our bodies are much more capable of utilizing food-based things and store-bought things in general. And so not that they're bad, but I just tend to have a more food-first approach. At the end of the day, I honestly believe that the abundance of probiotic strains and number of these probiotic strains in food-based form of probiotics is worth the switch. A lot of people are also asking about spore-based probiotics or soil-based probiotics. And again, these are two forms of probiotics that can be very beneficial. Some people are die-hard only spore-based probiotics, and I think that that's where again we get into the food forms of probiotics. I believe do that work for you. There is a brand of soil-based, probiotics that people are loving and seeing great results with. I'll have linked in the description box below. Soil-based probiotics are essentially soil fermented. Many people I've seen have issue with this because they don't want to just take from their polluted land that has maybe chemicals sprayed on it or pesticides sprayed on it and then ferment it themselves. And so these brands do that in a lab and then they test it and make sure that it's completely free of contaminants. But at the end of the day, that is what people used to do. And that is what you would be doing if you were fermenting your own things at home. If you got a cucumber out of the garden, you would have the bacteria from the soil that would be going into the ferment and be boosting your immune system that way. Okay, so now that we're at the end, I do want to go over how to know if a probiotic is actually working if you should continue taking it, because I know a lot of people who have had reactions to probiotics and then they've just thrown them out altogether, me included. When I was first starting out, I started taking something and I got a reaction. I thought, okay, I'm intolerant to that form of probiotic. Let's start with this baseline. You actually want a die-off or detox reaction. And that sounds extreme. You don't want it to be way over your body's limit. You don't want to leave yourself incapacitated, but you actually want to feel something from taking a probiotic. If you aren't, that means that your body actually doesn't need it. It might mean that your gut is actually populated with that specific strand or those multiple forms of strands with beneficial bacteria. Not that you should just stop it altogether, but my take on this from hearing research from Becky Plotner and learning about this in the GAPS world is that you actually want to try to find the probiotics that cause your body to have some form of detox, because that means that your body needed that strain. So if you aren't having die-off, I would recommend switching it up, adding in some other kind of vegetable, going and grabbing a vegetable from somebody else's garden to make your own, or trying a different probiotic supplement, or even switching with a friend, because everybody's home microbiome will have different bacterial compositions. And so even getting a probiotic like kefir from a friend might cause a detox reaction for you because your body isn't used to that certain bacterial composition, and that would be a good thing. You'll want to go slow, starting with little drops and building as you can tolerate, because these things are strong and they are very medicinal. And so think of it like you're dosing medicine. Is probiotics can cause really extreme detox reactions, and you don't want to overwhelm your system. So you need diversity. You want to challenge your body. I literally got a detox reaction this week from starting drinking a type of kefir that I wasn't used to drinking. And I just purchased some from a farm and started my own batches at home. And I ended up having a wild detox reaction that 4 years in, I'm still experiencing those types of things, because your body is constantly healing itself. So don't be discouraged if you have detox reactions. It just means your body is rebalancing that microbiome, and is a good thing. So if you're looking to go deeper into gut health, I have a quick guide to gut health in the description box below, which takes you through 10 of my best tips for healing your gut. Probiotics are just one of them, but there's a whole host of other things you can do to start working on that microbiome and resolving chronic issues. And if you got any value out of this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. It is my passion to walk alongside people as they heal and grow. It inspires me and hopefully brings encouragement to you. Thanks for watching.